Thank you very much, Linda. It's quite a tough act to follow, particularly when we hear the children themselves really voicing out. And as someone said, we have such human resource capital and a lot of hope, particularly for Africa. So at UNICEF, we look at the climate crisis really as a child rights crisis. We recognize the immediate impacts of the crisis itself. And of course, as UNICEF, we are often frontline in terms of responding, whether it's droughts, floods, disease outbreaks like cholera and malaria and so on. And of course, the longer term impacts as well as the intergenerational impacts. And what is key really is to really understand, particularly that with climate change, we have all these cumulative impacts which really hit upon African children in particular to really increase the level of inequalities quite disproportionately, particularly for the poorest children and those really who are already living in inequality. In terms of the child rights that are really infringed upon, it's around access to basic services such as water and sanitation, for instance. It's really moving backwards in terms of the developmental gains that we had achieved, whether it's in education, in health. It's really on these children's individual health and well-being, whether even during the process of the actual trauma itself, say it's a drought or a flood. We've seen a lot of mental health challenges even coming through. We've seen a lot of children being displaced and really separated from their families. And of course, I've already mentioned the inequalities and how with every event, they actually get worse and worse with every passing day. When we look at our continent, of course, people have already spoken about it. We are a very young, promising population. So 1 in 4 people will live in sub-Saharan Africa by 2050. And that is really 1 in 4 people will be the youth in sub-Saharan Africa as well. We are also the region with the youngest and fastest growing population. And we make, we make the youth make up about 60% of the population. So again, this really brings about some opportunities if we are able to maximize on the opportunities that climate change will provide. We do recognize that indeed a lot of the issues are quite negative, but there might be some opportunities that would really come out on that. And I will get to that a bit later on. And what we've tried to do at UNICEF is to really hear what the children themselves have to say. A lot of what we found has mirrored what the children in this discussion have and the youth have really put forward. So we spoke to over 110,000 children within sub-Saharan Africa, and 88% of them really felt that climate change was something that they were going to tackle, which speaks to all the potential that we have in this room that we have. And 70% really wanted to participate in this green transition that would make the world a better place. Again, that shows a lot of potential there. The young people said to us they lack the capital and the skills and the resources that would allow them to transition and really participate in this green economy, in which we are all trying to reduce the impacts of climate change. So there is some work for us together with the governments to work on. And of course, a lot of these children said they are already involved in some type of committee or volunteer group, about 25% of them, or some youth group that's addressing climate change. That shows you how much potential there is in the room. So what are we at UNICEF doing? Well, we recognize in 4 ways that we can really work with children around the crisis. The first is really being that frontline responder, protecting children when the impacts of climate change hit. The second is that we really want to talk about and work on reducing emissions and pollution, which is something that none of us have really spoken about, but we recognize that we are only responsible for 3% of the emissions that are really pushing climate change from the Africa perspective. So we are really pushing to have a reduction in terms of pollution right around the world. We also believe that the children must really be the focus of a lot of the climate and environmental strategies. And the NDCs that a lot of the countries are currently developing right now, UNICEF has been working together with the children themselves and the governments to ensure that children are well reflected in that process, because it really talks to what will be happening in the future for them. And then the last but not least, I think the most important, particularly in this room, is around empowering children as agents of change. So how do we get them to sit at the table? How do we give them the information they need? How do we translate it into words that they are able to really share with others and really make those strong statements? And yes, let that African child have a voice, maybe which is even stronger than a child from Europe, where the brunt of climate change will be lesser. So these are some of the things that we are doing. In terms of our programmatic approach, we've really embedded these 4 priorities right across our program. So where every child thrives, which is what we do in our health program, we've also embedded in their climate resilient health centers and services. So services that will be there when they are needed and that do not disappear, say there's a flood, and so services that are sustained within health. In education, again, we want every child to thrive and to learn. And so we are talking about green schools where we have green energy, where we've got an environmental curriculum. We also talk about how the children themselves can engage and be good citizens contributing positively. We also
maybe we can give you a few minutes to wrap up because of time.
Thank you. So directly again with children on the move, within WASH, we are also working on climate resilient services. And through all these different facets that UNICEF works in, we want the children to be engaged and really at the forefront. In terms of opportunities, here there is really a lot of opportunities. Again, we said we are the youngest population. So there's really opportunities for this group of children and youth to participate within the green economy, the circular economy itself. We want to see green, stronger youth movements around the environment. Want to enhance children within their policies. And in a much more practical sense, for example, we have what we call the Yoma Digital Livelihoods Challenge, where we develop the skills, we find opportunities, and we help the youth have impact. I will share the link for that program directly, but where the youth need to access us, reach any of the youth teams within the UNICEF country offices. I'm sure you'll find one country office or even an office close to your town. Thank you very much, Linda. Back to you.